Hey guys, and welcome back to the HobbyNut 007 channel and the Model Car Cup series. Today I want to share with you the direction I finally decided to go on our Saturday night short track group build chassis, and we're going to get started, so let's get to it. As you may recall, our base chassis is the MPC Superstocker kit, and I have already made my modifications a little bit to set this for the 71 Mustang 109-inch wheelbase. So we've got that taken care of, but there's a few things that we're going to have to make some changes on here. First of all, this was not a trailing arm type suspension. It was a leaf spring that comes in the kit, which we're altering that all together. You see these front A-arms here, which are not exactly accurate. So we're going to be cutting all of this down to the chassis level, and then we'll be rebuilding that back up to the proper type of arms. Also, you see the circles in black. That's where I marked the injection mold marks that need to be removed. So we'll be removing those. The red areas are places that needed to be filled in. The shroud that kind of covered the exhaust on the passenger side had a couple of holes there for that. So we've taken some styrene rod and we've plugged that up, and we'll be cutting those off and sanding all that smooth. Where the fire extinguisher mounted, we're going to be using a different type, probably photo etch mount for that. So wanted to plug that up too. The gas pedal and brake pedals, I'll show you all of that. And there was also a little hole that came up through the chassis right there for some reason, so we've got that filled in. And then there was a couple of little spots back here. On the rear clip, if you recall, we cut that inside panel away, which where the fuel cell set on, and then the battery tray that was right here. And we got all of that smoothed out nice and slick. And you'll notice on the bottom side where the leaf springs were, there were these holes in the chassis. So we've got those plugged. I'm going to be cutting those off, sanding those nice and smooth. Then we'll be able to add a few more braces up here that would be proper. Now, in that it's not a leaf spring car, it is a trailing arm car, the Mustang will be doing. We're going to be modifying a set of the truck arms out of one of the AMT stock car kits. So this is going to be cut all up and remodified to fit here. And we'll get on to that here in just a minute and let you see that. But that's just the stock AMT trailing arm or truck arm section. And we'll be showing what you're doing there. A few things I got in the mail I wanted to share with you. Well, first of all, let me show you the rear end. The stock rear end for this kit is just a Franklin quick change, and this is just mocked up. There's a couple little things that will have to be changed. These will have to be removed. There's a couple of things that are going to have to be altered on this thing. And right here, and I could use one of the rear ends of Franklin out of probably one of the modifieds or something, but I kind of like the look of this. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of modifications that need to be made on it, but I think overall I like the look. But you'll see right here there's a little bit of a gap. When everything, when everything lined up on both sides right here, you can see a little bit of a gap. That's an easy fix with a piece of just rod, styrene rod, really small. And the way that will fit right there is you won't even notice it when I'm done. But it does fit the trailing arms beautifully. And I think I had that in there backwards, but, well, upside down too. But, and I've kind of done the mock-up on where it'll need to go here, and it looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. So we'll be making, again, some modifications on this, and we'll let you see that as we go. The pedals are from Hurd Hobbies, and this is the master cylinder and pedals So again, the floor mounted pedal, we've removed that, but these look really, really good. And the fuel cell, and that's going to be sitting right back in here. And of course we'll make our other bracing and all that hold it in place as well. But I think that's gonna look pretty darn good. The other thing is, as you see here, this was a wide 5 type of brake system. So again, from Hurd Hobbies, we got the pieces for that here. We've got the brake disc, the caliper, and if I don't know that you can see it, but if we hold it just down the side, you see the little nubs there. Those are the bolts for the wide 5 type hub. Oops. Let's see if I can hold it in place. You see your lug studs, and you'll notice on the back the little holes there. Hopefully you can. That will fit right. This worked great in rehearsal, so let's hope it goes well now. There it went. Yeah, there we go. And then the caliper sits right. You know what? I'll just take that off for a moment. And then your caliper mounts. But really cool. So we're going to have that to work on for the front and rear. Got a lot of work up here in the front though, so we'll be getting on that. Was there something else I want to show you real quick before we get started? Fuel cell. Oh, the transmission, engine, all that stuff we've gotten out of the way. Now check out the details and the linkages on this 4-speed. Isn't that cool? I love this stuff. And we are using Model Car or MCV Products small block Ford engine. I've got a couple of those, and I'm thinking what I'm going to do is, you know, I like to display them in the car, but I oftentimes like to put one beside the car too. So I'm wrestling with whether I want to do that or just have one in the car. Sometimes I just do the engine beside so you can see more to the detail. But I'll probably do both of them as I usually do. But there we go. So we got started on that. Oh, and the last thing is from Hurd Hobbies. Again, this is a super detailed alternator. Just really cool stuff. So going to get on this, get started on this. I'm going to go ahead and try to clean up all of this, flatten out and sand all of this away. And then we'll come back and maybe get some primer on that, and we'll take a look at the trailing arms and that stuff too. So stick around. Okay guys, as you can see, we've got her all cleaned up. We've got it clamped up. I've got some things drying on it right now. All those injection pin marks and the holes that were in it are nice and smooth, filled in. Those leaf spring mounting holes, you can see they're gone. And I did not get primer on it because I've got too much stuff drying. I don't want to get this video drug out too far, but I've got some suspension mounting stuff as well as for the fuel cell to be added back here. So I'll be getting into that along with the front suspension. And as you see in this picture, the A-arms, as I've mentioned, were not accurate. They weren't right, so we took the razor saw and cut those off, and then we evened up the frame rails, and of course that left that 1/8 inch hole through there. So we took some 1/8 inch rod, and you see we have that clamped in right now drying. And once this dries, we're gonna take our sanding stick, sand that back flat, top, bottom, and sides, and then we'll make our mount for the A-arms, upper and lower A-arms. I think this is coming along pretty well. And I'm liking how this looks so far. I'm going to have to redo the firewall, so some of this is probably going to have to be removed as well. But And again, you can see where all those holes and injection marks were filled. The truck arms, while I've got it upside down here, if you remember, they were just the stock. Well, we removed about 4 millimeters from each side, and now we've got a good fit, and it's a pressure fit that holds it in place right there. And that's looking really good. Now I'm going to have to create some shock mounts, a little bit different shock mounts back here. And as I mentioned, once this cures and I get it unclamped, I'll put the bracket back here and here. The one back here will be for the suspension. And let me flip this back over, set it over here out of the way. And as you see in this picture, right forward of the coilover shock there on the real car, you see that chain? Well, that chain mounts to the chassis and it goes down to the trailing arm. And when you jack the car up so far, to keep the trailing arms and the rear suspension from going all the way to the ground, that's what that chain is for. It also, in a wreck, can hold the suspension in place, but it's actually not for that purpose. It is to keep it from traveling all the way to the ground during pit stops and stuff. You can find in any jewelry store, or the way I used to get these was go to Walmart, find a $1.99 or a 99-cent costume, jewelry, basically a piece of junk, and take the little pendant, whatever, throw it in your toolbox, because you never know what you can find to use some of that stuff for. And yeah, I'm a hoarder. But and use the chain. Now this particular piece is a little bit big for 125th, 124th. So I'm going to be making a trip to Hobby Lobby, to the jewelry section, and find me a nice little piece of chain, retainer chain, for the rear end, and also shocks, those coilovers. Now these are from Mr. Model, which is in Brazil. They have a great online store on eBay, and everything I have ever ordered from them in the past has been here within 10 days usually, unless it was out of stock, and I've never had that happen either. It just gets here faster than you would think coming internationally. And these things are absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to be using these on this build. A lot of times I'll machine or make my own, but this has the photo etch with them. And let me tell you, these things, 2-pack, they're very affordable, very cheap. So head over to eBay, check out Mr. Model. Just put in aluminum shocks. I think that's the way they're listed. I could be wrong. But let me tell you, whether you do street rods, race cars, things like that, these things are really, really good. The rear axle, as you see here, I measured the overall axle with the output shafts, everything. And I'd mentioned that I was going to have to, as you see here, cut those away. Well, I decided, or trim them down, clean them up. Well, what I decided to do is just cut them off altogether. Took a 3mm drill bit and drilled through. And also, if you remember, as you see here, the little gap that was in the rear end right here and right here that you could see right in. We took a piece of, I want to say it was 20 thousandths, yeah, 20 thousandths, evergreen number 218, 20 thousandths rod, put a little Tamiya cement, and then just tucked it in there, pressed it right in, and it is just nice and smooth. You cannot see a gap or a hole, and it looks like it was made there. The other thing that I'm going to have to do is this area right here from the, where'd my pointer go? from the back of the pumpkin right about here back is actually a little bit longer than it needs to be. So I'm going to have to, because one thing you don't want it doing is when it's in the suspension, you don't want it riding so close to the fuel cell or touching the fuel cell. But honestly, that looked long to me, so I took out my scale ruler, 25th scale ruler, and measured it, and yeah, it's a little bit off. And when I measured where it needs to come to, it's going to be about 1.1. Where'd it go? There we go. 1.1 millimeters, which is, as you see, very short. It's a very small thing, and you might think, well, is it worth doing? Well, actually it is, because like I said, you don't want this resting too close to that fuel cell. So I'm going to take off, which is actually about just a little bit more than the lip there for the gear housing plate. So we're going to take off about 1.1 millimeters right about there, which will bring this almost not noticeable, but for the fit it will be. So that's going to come in just a touch. Now for the output shafts, I took a piece of 3.1 millimeter aluminum tubing. That's why I use the 3 millimeter rod. And now you see why we measured that overall length. So we're going to be able to get that right. And you also always want to make sure that everything is squared up, because you don't want this thing sitting in there kind of cattywampus like that, because your suspension is not going to ride right. It's not going to sit right. So we've got that, and it's a good kind of snug fit. But I've got a piece of 3.2 millimeter styrene, and I'm thinking about, I want to use the aluminum, but I'm thinking I'm going to use this, because the shafts that come through the output sleeves are going to go right into the hubs. So that gives me a little more thickness there to be able to put something in for that. So we're just going to play that. Well, I'm going to experiment with both little by little. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to share with you right now. I think that's about it. I'll go ahead and get this rear end done. I was hoping to get this into primer before the end of this video, but with the suspension stuff I've still got to do, I'll probably get some primer up here to make sure all of this is nice and smooth. But we are going to take the top, bottom, and sides, smooth this out, and then make that, as I said, the A-frame bracket. But guys, I think that's about it for the moment. Hope you got something out of it. I'm having a blast. I love this stuff. So again, thanks guys. I appreciate you tagging along. Look forward to your comments. Hope y'all have an awesome week. I'm going to be probably in the next 20 minutes right back over onto the foam booth. I've got a lot of stuff out of the dehydrator. I'll be filming the chroming process, as well as putting the gloss black on a couple of other things. The suspension stuff that's now dry for it. So guys, God bless. Hope y'all have an awesome week, and I will see you in the next video. See you guys.